Alright, here we are at my Minecraft Shinto shrine. I'm going to be kind of flying through some of the parts of my shrine just to try and fit everything in within the 15-minute timestamp. However, I am going to have the important points about what I'm saying on the screen so that you can follow along. Now, before I start, I figured since we've never actually learned about Shintoism in class, I might as well get you up to speed on all the basic aspects of Shintoism you should know in order to fully understand the meanings behind some of the structures I've built. Shintoism is a Japanese religion, and it is known for its polytheistic worship of kami, which are deities, divinities, spirits, phenomena, or holy powers that are regarded with deep respect. The actual word kami means gods or spirits that exist in all things. Because of this, Shintoism is classified as an animistic religion, meaning one that worships nature or nature spirits. The Shinto religion has an extremely large number of gods, and it became known as the religion of the million gods, as there are up to 80 million different kami in Japan. Shintoism is the traditional religion of Japan, as about 80% of the Japanese population attend Shinto shrines and ceremonies today. Shinto does not have a Bible or a sacred book or founder like most other religions. There are about 80,000 different shrines in total, and overall Shinto shrines are places of worship and dwellings of the kami, the Shinto gods. Now, there are about 10 main things that I've built, and I'm hoping to get through all of them, so let's get started. Coming up at our first main aspect of the Shinto shrine is this big gate here. This gate is known as the Torii Gate, and it represents the border between secular and sacred worlds. The Torii Gates are by far one of the most recognizable symbols at a Shinto shrine, as I'm sure all of you have seen at least one before. Or maybe you've seen the emoji for the Torii Gate. So if you've ever wondered what that emoji actually was, now you know. There are two main types of Torii Gates, this one in particular being a Myoijin Torii Gate, which is sort of like the more ornamental kind of Torii Gate. These gates were originally made from wood or stone. However, now most of them are made from reinforced concrete or stainless metals. The gates are usually painted either red or white with the black arc on top, and I'll talk a little more about the significance of the colors later on in the video. Now, before you actually enter through the Torii Gate, there's something that you should know. It's custom not to walk through the center of the Torii Gate, as it's believed the center space is reserved only for the kami to pass through. So instead, you're going to walk through the sides of the gate. Now, before you enter your first Torii Gate, remember to bow and step forward with your left foot. Alright, you are now inside a sacred and beautiful place. And if you walk up this path a bit, you'll see our second main aspect of the Shinto shrine, which is this tree here with a big rope around it. Now, these objects are called yorishiro, and yorishiro are objects that are capable of attracting kami. These objects are used during ceremonies to call the kami to worship, and once a yorishiro actually houses a kami, it can now be called a shintai. As for the rope that's actually around this yorishiro, it is called the shimenawa, which translates to sacred rope, You'll often see these zigzag-shaped slips of paper attached to the shimenawa, these right here, and these are known as shide. Now you're going to see the shimenawa and shide all over the place as they mark the boundaries of a sacred place within the shrine, and they also ward off any evil spirits. You'll often see the shimenawa rope and the shide ornaments wrapped around sacred trees like this, or rocks, or even the grand champion sumo wrestlers known as yokozuna. And before we even move from this spot, I can talk to you about the third main aspect of our Shinto shrine. It's actually the stone path that we've been walking on, and it's called the Sando. The Sando, which translates to visiting path, is the road approaching a Shinto shrine. A sando can be called a front sando, which is what this one is. It's called omote sando, or a rear sando, ura sando, which is what you would see at the back of a shrine, maybe leading to a road or to a forest, something like that. There's also an uncommon one called the waki sando, which would be called the side sando. As you walk down the sando, it is common to see stone lamps, or in some older temples like this one, you would see large trees which are referred to as the Shinju no Mori, or sacred forest. In Shintoism, these groves are considered dwelling places of the kami. A little further up the Sando path, and we make it to our fourth main aspect of the Shinto shrine. Picking up the pace now too, this building here is referred to as the Temizuya, which translates to purification fountain. The Temizuya, or Chozuya, is stationed in front of the second torii gate, where there is clear running water. Now the purpose of the Temizuya is to purify the body before entering. There is a certain cleansing ritual to follow at the Temizuya, which is as follows. You'll take 1 scoop of water with the dipper in your right hand, and don't dump the whole thing onto your left hand, because you're only supposed to use 1 cup of water. Anyway, right hand, dip some water onto your left hand, switch the dipper into your left hand, pretend I'm doing that, and dip some water onto your right hand. Now dipper back in the right hand, dip some water into the palm of your left hand, wash your mouth with that water, pour a little bit more onto your left hand, and then turn the dipper upright so that the remaining water cleanses the handle as it falls back down. After that, you're going to put the dipper back where you found it, and you can proceed to the next part of the shrine. As we're walking here, you'll notice that the Temizuya also has the Yorishiro rope with the ornaments on it to mark that that is in fact a sacred building. Coming up to the fifth main aspect of the shrine, we have the Shamusho. This is where priests and other shrine personnel rest when not engaging in religious rituals or ceremonies. Visitors at the shrine can also purchase talismans here to protect their homes with the blessing of the shrine's kami. Now each shamusho will have a public counter where visitors can request for special prayer rituals, as well as buy the talismans or tokens. Now it might sound odd for a sacred place to have a gift shop, but the shamusho isn't considered to be a gift shop. Customarily, one speaks of receiving the items rather than buying them, since they are considered religious objects rather than commercial items. The most popular item at the shamusho is called the omakuji. You've probably already heard of these before, but probably didn't know the name. But omakuji are small pieces of white paper that contain random fortunes. So we're going to buy one here because it's going to be important later on. And now you'll notice that this one says Kyo next to it, which translates to bad luck. And I'll tell you what that means when we get to the main part of the shrine. But before I go, I'm going to show you upstairs. This is where the priests and other shrine personnel would rest when they're not doing any religious ceremonies or rituals. Now exiting the shamusho, we're coming up to another torii gate here. And I'm not going to talk much about it since it's exactly the same as the other one. However, the use of more than one torii gate is because it's believed that each gate following another represents passage into an even more sacred place than what lay before. Most shrines have 2 torii gates, but there's a shrine named the Fushimi Inari Shrine in Kyoto, Japan, that is believed to have around 10,000 torii gates leading to its main buildings. And if you're walking at a normal pace, it would take about 2 hours to get to the main shrine. It's on top of a mountain too, so not only are you walking for 2 hours, you're walking up a hill for 2 hours. And I'm going to enter through the side, because if you remember, the middle spot is reserved for only the kami to enter through. Alright, and at the start I said you would usually see stone lamps along the Sando path. So here are a few of them. The reason they look more ornamental and not just like a plain lamp is literally to provide a nice aesthetic. And that's basically it. You'll see them in specific spots to create this nice aesthetic as well. Anyway, up next we have the sixth main aspect of our shrine. That being these stone statues right here. These are called komainu, and they're supposed to look like scary guardian dogs or foxes. But yeah, I mean, I tried, I guess. The komainu are a symbol of protection. These statues are believed to ward off evil spirits from sacred shrines and temples, as well as private households. These statues come in pairs, and there's actually a small difference between the two, so if I stand here, you might be able to see it. So maybe you spotted it. One actually has its mouth open, while the other has its mouth shut. Maybe you spotted it, but didn't know it was a mouth. Anyway, an open mouth symbolizes fierceness, and a closed mouth represents strength. However, there is also a different symbolic meaning behind this as well. That being that the open mouth is pronouncing the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, A, and the closed mouth is presenting the last letter, Aum. So, together, you get Aum. Yeah. Now before we actually get to the main part of the shrine, you can see it in the background. I have to talk a little bit about the sixth main aspect of the Shinto shrine, which is this fence right here. It is known as the Tamagaki fence, and it is a sacred fence that surrounds the Haiden of a Japanese Shinto shrine. The word Tamagaki in kanji is spelled like, it's going to be on the screen, and now when you separate the two kanji, this one on the left and that on the right, the one on the left has the meaning holy and beautiful, whereas the one on the right has the meaning of enclosure. So when you combine these two kanji, they form a holy and beautiful enclosure. You'll notice that this spans around the entire shrine as well. And now we've made it to the best part of the shrine in my opinion. You'll notice that there's a stone path here with the gravel on the outside, and you're actually encouraged to walk along the gravel. You can run all over it if you like. The reason for this is because the gravel is seen as a natural purifier of the soul, which makes sense since gravel is one of the natural purifiers of water as well. Anyway, this is the eighth main aspect of the shrine here. It's this main building right in the center, and it is called the Haiden. Now the Haiden is the hall of worship, and it's often the largest building in the shrine. This is where visitors at the shrine can pray and pay their respects to the kami of the shrine. Now to offer a prayer outside the hall of worship, you first have to offer some money into the donation box. Now normally you would offer a 5 yen coin right here, as it is believed that the hole in the coin, pretend there's a hole, is considered lucky. Donate that. Now the main ritual that takes place in front of the Haiden involves this bell here that you see. And the steps are as follows. Offer some money into the donation box. Then you're going to ring the bell. Stand up straight and bow twice. Then you're going to clap your hands twice. Make your prayer. This can be anything that you want. Once you're finished praying, you're going to bow once more, and that'll be it. Now we're going to come into the actual main part, the inside of the shrine. Now, normally visitors don't enter this part, as usually you'd only be in here for special rituals that you would have to make back at the Shamu show. But inside you would see small water basins. You might see a table with books. These are miniature komainu here, the guardian dogs. And you would also see these special lamps as well, which are called the Toro. You may also see the sacred Shimenawa rope with the Shide ornaments, and you may also see paintings as well. Now these two main buildings on the side here are actually different buildings from the center, and they are referred to as the Hiden. And yeah, the names are pretty similar. The tree's kind of blocking it too, so I'm just going to go up here. And these two structures that are attached to the Hiden are a special place for having ceremonies and presenting offerings called Hihaku. I think that's how you say it. In some shrines, the Hiden might not be attached to the Hiden and instead be an independent structure somewhere else. However, it's more common for the Hiden to share the same architecture as the Hiden. As you can see, there's a staircase that leads to them. Now, also very rarely, some shrines might not have a Hiden, but that's usually in smaller shrines or more modern ones in cities. You might also hear some people call the Hiden a Kagura Den or Kagura Hall. And the reason for this is because oftentimes a ceremonial dance called the Kagura happens here. And it's actually a pretty interesting dance too. There's a picture of what it looks like on the screen right now. Now if we go inside, it's gonna jump over here. You'll notice that there is not a lot of decorations, and that's because this is where you would be performing those Kagura dances, but you will see the same lanterns that you saw in the Hiden, the Toro lanterns. Now the purpose of these Toro lanterns is to thwart natural disasters, welcome happiness, guide the souls of the departed, or to remember ancestors and loved ones. Now near the start of the video, you'll remember that I got this omakuji that said Kyo on it, which means bad luck. Now if you end up getting a bad luck omakuji from the Shamusho, it doesn't actually mean that you're going to be doomed forever with bad luck. There's actually a way to get rid of your bad luck, which involves tying the omakuji up to these poles here that you would see out front of the main part of the shrine. So we're just gonna leave that here, and our good luck will be, or our bad luck will be gone. Alright, we're running through here now. We gotta get to the last part. 10th part, the final part. Also, they added these trees today. I didn't know that, so it would have been cool if I could have made the forest out of that, but it's whatever. I put 2 of them here. Anyway, coming up to the 10th main aspect of the shrine, it's last but definitely not least. It's actually probably the most important building in the shrine. Now this building is called the Honden, and you'll notice that it is also surrounded by a sacred fence. However, this fence is usually smaller and is usually called the Mizugaki, whereas this one back there is the Tamagaki. Now, there is a different meaning behind the 2 fences, but to shorten it right down for time, the Mizugaki fence marks the border between the sacred and the common. The only things or only beings allowed to enter past this gate are the kami and the shrine's priest. So pretend I'm a priest because I'm going in here. That's an example of the Shimenawa rope around a rock as well. Alright, now that we're entering into the Honden, the Honden is the main sanctuary of the shrine, and it houses Go Shintai. I talked about how Shintai are objects that possess kami, and the only main difference between Shintai and Go Shintai are that the Shintai are bodies of the kami, and the Go Shintai are sacred bodies of the kami. That's why you would find them in this special sanctuary. Now, these Go Shintai are sacred treasures like swords, mirrors, or curved jewels called Megatama. However, these objects are always wrapped in a white cloth like so. So not even the head priest can ever see them. The Honden is always closed to the public as well, as it is meant for the executive use of the kami. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video that I would talk a little bit about the colors, so I'm going to do that quickly. Now, the main colors that you are going to see at the shrines would be red and white. And now the spiritual meanings behind the color red is that this color was seen as a way to scare away evil spirits and protection against evil as well as vitality. And now white is considered a sacred color of the gods and symbolizes spiritual and physical purity, which is why you would often see emperors or important people in Japan dressed in white for Shinto rituals. Another main focal point that you would see at the Shinto shrines would be these curvy roofs that you can see in the background there. And these curvy roofs are not only part of the Japanese traditional architecture, but there is actually an important spiritual meaning behind them as well. Now, these curved roofs were commonly believed to ward off evil spirits, which is why they are commonly used in most Shinto shrines. And it's said that evil spirits hated curves and that they would slip and fall off of the roof due to its drastic angle. And with that, now you have a small understanding of what Shinto shrines actually look like and what the meanings behind some of their beautiful structures are. I'm not really sure whether or not this part is important, but now that I've walked through the whole temple and explained it, I have a short collage of photos that I'm going to show right after this that show sort of the building process and all the items that I used for building each structure. And you also would have noticed that a small picture popped up at every main aspect of the shrine. I think it's on the right side of the screen. And those photos are what I used as reference photos for each build. But before all that, I've got a quick universal question. Now, I'm sure someone else is going to have something similar to this, but why do you think it is important to have assignments like these and like this class to educate about different religions?